Okay, this is Rita Paquin, and you were born in what year?
1919,
And you were born in Lowell,
born in Lowell,
and
then moved to Drake when I was about 5 or 6 years of age.
mhm,
In the morning, we'd rise up about 5:30 in the morning,
mhm,
and we have to get the mash, crack corn, and mix it in a big barrel with garbage, a little of everything in it.
mhm,
Then we'd slop the pigs. That means feed the pigs.
mhm,
Then we'd have to go and get the stuff for the chicken, the grain for the chicken,
mhm.
and get out there and feed the chickens. This is before you go to eat your breakfast.
Yeah,
So
real early in
this
the
way
morning.
here be done. And then you have to, we didn't have snow plows,
Mhm.
or we didn't have, what do you call those things you turn the soil over?
Um,
Today, instead of with a shovel, you
Yeah.
don't, you do it with your feet and your shovel.
yeah.
Turn the soil over. And that would get you ready to make your garden.
Mhm.
You'd have to plant the important things like potatoes. Potatoes was the biggest thing we would plant if we got enough potatoes with the eye on it, because you
Mhm.
got to have an eye on it to make potatoes.
And you just stick them right in the ground.
Yes, and then you go out and you get the bug as they grow. There's bugs come on. You take a little can, and you go out and take the bugs and toss them into the can. They get rid of the bugs so they won't eat the potatoes. And then you'd have lettuce. You had some carrots and a few cabbages, mostly potatoes,
Mhm.
because my mother could go ahead and store them. In those days, we had no cement cellar. We had dirt cellar.
Mhm.
So my father would try and get some dirt and make a bedding. And we put potatoes and stuff that could keep in the ground. Not plant them, just lay them down, but keep turning them every day or so they won't rot on us. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Then some days you find out you have, we'll say 25 or 30 chickens. Hey, you're not getting that many eggs, so something's wrong. So you find out there's a way, I know the way also, is to tell the difference if they land or not.
Mhm.
And we pick up the chicken by the feet and we test them. If they're not laying, we put them in one pot. And if we can get 2 or 3 chickens together, then that would be kill them
Mhm.
and switch them over to Coben. He used to have cows, and he'd give us so much milk for so many chickens.
Mhm.
But you cannot eat a chicken killed the same day. Today you might because you got the freezer. But in those days you'd wait at least 2 days to get the body and the heat out of them.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean?
Yeah. What is your earliest memory? What's like the very first time you can remember when you were a little girl?
The first thing I remember in my
First
older
thing you can
days,
remember.
getting out of bed and my mother telling me we got some chickens, little baby chickens.
Mhm.
And my father's father let us take an incubator, and it was put in electricity bulb to keep the little chickens warm.
Yep.
And to me, that was the most precious thing. They're so small, but when they grow big, they're pretty and all.
Mhm.
But we have to kill them to survive.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go out and kill chickens today and say I have to do it,
Mm-mm.
because you don't have to today. It's entirely different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it taught me a lot. I went to school in Drake
Mhm.
until before the 6th grade. I was taken out of school.
Was that because you had to work?
I had to help my mother.
Um, when so you went to school up until the 6th grade?
I was just going into the 6th grade when I had to come out. My mother took a spell. She lost the sight of her eyes for almost 2 years.
How did that happen?
It was true cancer, but we didn't know at the time
Oh.
because they didn't have that.
They didn't have the medical technology back then.
No.
So you came out of school to help your mother.
Yes.
Um, Did was that common? Did a lot of kids only go to school that long?
No, kids usually go to school. In those days, if you didn't go to school and you're supposed to, the next day, if you missed 2 days in a row,
Mm-hmm.
the sulky with a horse would come down.
Was that a truant officer?
Truant officer.
Mm-hmm.
And he want to know what's the matter with the kid.
So did they come after you?
Oh, yeah, they came after me.
And what happened?
My father had to go and see the superintendent
Yeah.
to get a permit for me to stay home. Because if I didn't have that permit to show them, they would drag me back in school. In the summertime, during vacation, when school let out, my father and mother would take our shoes, polish them, and put them on the shelf. Now, you don't see those shoes again until September when school starts. Every day when the kids come home from school, we had to go out from neighbor to neighbor with a little red cart
Mm-hmm.
and collect the garbage. But on Saturday, we have to take one big pail of water with us. And all the neighbors that gave us garbage during the week, we'd wash that pail out so it would be clean for them.
Because you'd have to eat out of that.
The pigs would eat out of that.
Mm.
That would be the pigs' stuff. In the morning, we
So you weren't collecting food for yourself. You were collecting it for the pigs. So when you went from house to house, you weren't collecting
garbage for the pigs.
for the pigs, not for yourself.
No, for the pigs.
Okay. When you used to have to collect the trash in the morning,
Yeah.
did everybody do that?
No.
No.
The ones that go to school got out of it.
Okay.
They washed up and helped my mother in the house, straighten out things in the house.
Mm-hmm. So was everyone poor back then, or was it just a few?
The
years?
majority was.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had a couple of customers that I used to collect garbage with, and they were garage men,
Yeah.
own a garage, and they were pretty well off.
Yeah.
Well, around the holidays, Easter or something like that, they would fix me a nice plate of food, fruit, or candy or nuts and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And she would say, "Don't cheat. You bring it home to Mama. That's for the holidays."
Mm-hmm.
They were very generous.
Yeah.
And Mr. Pappas lived in Dracut. He used to go ahead and have the apples drop on the ground. And he told us, as long as we don't pick the apples, we can come up and get the apples off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother used to make applesauce, apple pie when she was well.
He had an orchard.
Well, not in that orchard, maybe about 4 or 5 trees that bore apples, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't mind we picking them off the ground. But if we picked them off the tree, he told our father at nighttime, and be recommended there, you know, wow.
Yeah. Now, what did the kids ever make fun of you for going around and picking up the garbage?
Oh, naturally. Pig, wait a minute, no. Pig's picking thing.
Squill picker?
Something like that.
Yeah.
There was a Goodwill on Page Street.
Mm-hmm.
It's a second-hand clothing place. My mother used to go down there when she could afford to take the trolley cars and pick up clothes down there very, very cheap. Now, she'd come home, rip them all out, wash them good. Out of some of that clothes, she'd make either dresses or else coats for us in the winter. Never bought a new coat. I never had a new coat when I was young. There was a Goodwill on Page Street.
Mm-hmm.
It's a second-hand clothing place. My mother used to go down there when she could afford to take the trolley cars and pick up clothes down there very, very cheap. Now, she'd come home, rip them all out, wash them good. Out of some of that clothes, she'd make either dresses or else coats for us in the winter. Never bought a new coat. I never had a new coat when I was young. My father would take the barrel stays they're curved, funny.
Yeah.
He'd put our feet on it with a pencil, mark how long. Then to, what do you call those, inner tubes.
Yeah.
My father would tap the inner tubes a piece across the instep of your wooden shoe.
Yeah.
And by the time you went to school again, those shoes you used to wear given to the other one. We didn't care if they're boys or girls' shoes.
Yeah.
You just wore them.
So did you have any time to play when you were a kid?
Not too much. No.
So you didn't have any toys or anything?
We had, at Christmas time, my mother would pick up a couple of toys at the Goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went to bed at 8 o'clock, my mother and father would either repair them, and my mother would make little dresses for the doll and all. And we each get, Dottie and I would each get a doll. But Dottie didn't like to play like that. You know what I mean?
She was a tomboy?
Huh?
She was a tomboy?
No, Dottie was sophisticated. She thought she was better.
She was your older sister?
No, younger.
Oh, okay.
4.5 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a lot of toys, what kind of things would you do with
Play
your time?
with the pigs, the little suckling pigs.
Yeah.
Or you take a little, the name of the hen. It's a small hen.
Yeah.
And you used to put a little string around the leg, not too tight.
Yeah.
And try and pull it along with you. And sing a song and everything else. You make your own party.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You mentioned your brothers and sisters. I always thought it was just you and Milton.
No.
Where were you in the age?
I'll tell you. Chet was the youngest boy.
Mm-hmm.
Then Milton was the next one. Then Dottie was the next one. Then I was the next one. And then I had a half-brother and a half-sister. Now, my half-brother, he ran away and he ran on freight trains and all, a life by himself. To this day, I don't know where he is. I never heard from him.
So he was a hobo?
He was a hobo.
Mm-hmm.
And he had married, and his wife died of something. And they had 2 kids, a boy and a girl, Leo and Ruthie. Well, when Ruthie died, the state is going to take the 2 kids. So her mother took the little girl, and my mother wasn't going to let the state take the boy.
Mm-hmm.
So the boy was brought into our place. Another mouth to feed, but what can you do? It's a relative.
Mm.
You wouldn't do that, shove them out.
So you grew up with 8 kids altogether?
There was 4, 5, 6 kids with Leo is 8. Yeah. We had trolleys, not buses. And it would be cheaper to send me down to Blockman's Market in Lowell to pick up food than my father. It would cost me only a nickel to go, but my father would cost 10 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be too expensive.
What about my grandfather Milton?
Your father used to come with me, and we used to have a list and the money for what we want.
Yep.
And we'd get shopping done. And when I get one bag full, I would put him near the door inside and tell him to wait there with another bag and go get some more food shopping. Now, Friday night was your specials. There was like 2 pounds of coffee for $1, 2 pounds of pound cake for $1. On a Thursday, if you had the money to get down a bus, you could get a nice corned beef dinner, not a big piece of corned beef. And you have a couple of potatoes, carrots, and turnip, and a cabbage, all for $1.49, and a shopping bag that came with it. Mm-hmm. We'd get those 2 big shopping bags full of food. Mm-hmm. Well, we get on the trolley car because the conductor would help us on. But when it comes to our stop to get off, my father would be there with the wheelbarrow.
Yep.
And my father would take the 2 bags and put them in the wheelbarrow, and we'd chug along home. Up the hill and down the hill, in the house we go. Mm. So we have to go ahead and compromise. Sometimes we could make it on a Thursday, sometimes we couldn't. In the olden days, we didn't have butter. Butter was for the rich people. We used to have what you call oleo. Now, it came into a pound package.
Yeah.
And inside that pound package, there was a little plastic thing. You used to peel it off, put the butter in a bowl, peel the paper off that, and you used to pour that stuff on top of your butter. Then you take your clean hands and you mash it all up and squeeze it. It would turn color looking.
Yeah.
And then we'd put it in, try and pat it down to a block. And that's how we use butter. And when we went to eat breakfast or supper or anything, my mother would just give us so much so we'd save some.
Yeah.
You can't have all you want. I was about 15 years old when I realized there is flush toilets. We didn't know about flush toilets.
Yeah.
Oh boy, what a surprise.
Would you have an outhouse?
We had the outhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved into that little flat that the city of Lowell gave us, it was just three rooms and a toilet inside. And up on the farm, you had to take a bath. My mother would get the big wash tub out on Saturday night. And they used to have what you call boilers. You put the boiler on the stove and fill it up with pails of water to heat up. And then when that got hot, my mother would dump it into the big tub on the floor. Then she'd take one kid at a time and give them a bath. But during the week, we had what you call sponge baths. As long as our ears are clean, our hair is combed, and our face is shiny, my mother says, you look beautiful. Another thing that used to make fun of us, we didn't have the money to get a haircut. You know what my father did?
What?
He put us on the chopping block. You know what a chopping block is?
For where you cut the heads off the chickens?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd sit us up on there. When our hair's getting a little too long, he'd take the bowl, depends what size bowl, and he'd cut our hair around. Then he had a pair of old clippers.
Yeah.
And he used to shave our back. Well, the kids used to laugh at us because we had the homemade haircuts.
Yeah.
But we were told that's the way life is. Now, when we kill pigs, usually 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, we killed some little baby pigs. They call them suckling pigs.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would eat those in place of turkey or chicken. We always had a pig for
Thanksgiving dinner.
For Thanksgiving. My mother would try and save a chicken for Christmas, though. That's our routine. And in the house where we live, there was only 4 rooms. 2 rooms upstairs. 1 room was girls, 1 room was boys. And my mother and father, they used the living room downstairs as a bedroom. So we had just a kitchen and a bedroom downstairs because we had no living room. But when it come Christmas time, my mother would shift the furniture around in her bedroom. So my father would go out in the woods and get a pine tree for Christmas tree. And we didn't have decorations. What we had to do is sit down in the evening and draw little pictures, and my father would punch a hole in them, put the string through them. He used to hang them on the Christmas tree. And if we were lucky enough, some of our friends would buy some popcorn and some cranberries, and they would pop the popcorn, and we kids would sit around the table and thread 1 popcorn, 1 cranberry, and make a trail. Yeah. And we decorate the Christmas tree with that because we couldn't afford lights and all that thing. And at Christmas time was the night before Christmas we were allowed to see the tree. Before that, we weren't allowed to see how pretty it was going to be. Of course, we were rich. We had popcorn and cranberries on the tree and everything, you know. And if Mrs. Dukas, my mother's very close friend, sometime around Christmas, she would bring up a few apples, a few bananas and oranges, and my mother would put them in a bowl on the floor near the Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And that night, we always went to bed by 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
But that night, we could stay up till 10, 11 o'clock. But the next morning, we had to get out there, and you couldn't wait
Get
for
to
the
work.
animals, you
Yeah.
know? They got to be fed. Now, I helped my father kill pigs, and the big pigs, my father would get 2 other guys and him.
Mm-hmm.
But my job was take a pan with a wooden spoon and get on your knees and get ready. And when they stab the pig in the throat, in the heart, it goes right down, the blood would be rushing out. Well, my job was to get there and stir up the blood.
Yeah.
Because if you don't keep stirring, it's going to be curdled. And you can't make anything out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But out of that, my mother used to make blood sausage.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to have salt pork. Now, when you kill a pig, there's a lot of good things inside of a pig that people would throw away today.
Like what?
In those days, we wouldn't. Now, take the urine bag.
Mm-hmm.
That's precious. My father would put that on the side till he get done with the other chores.
Mm-hmm.
Then he'd wash that and clean it and boil water and really soak it clean.
Yeah.
They would make tobacco pouches out of that.
Oh.
Now, that is something unusual.
So that was almost a luxury.
Huh?
That was almost a luxury then.
Oh, if you got one of those, you're
Yeah.
a big shot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What other things did they do with the?
And then you take the head of the pig, and my mother would take that in the house, and she'd dig the eyes out, clean the nostrils, and she couldn't take the teeth out, but she'd wash all the outside, scrub the skin and all, and she put it in a big boiling pot and boil it very well. Then the skin would fall off, the teeth would come out, the jaw and all would come out, and out of that she would make head cheese.
What's that?
It's a spread. It's very delicate spread. Not everybody can do it. You know, like I couldn't do it today because I didn't watch my mother.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the housework. I was more or less outside farm work.
Yeah.
You know, but my mother would make head cheese, and then out of the blood she would make blood sausage.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have the money to send part of the pig out to have a smoked shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get short of meat, we used to boil the pork and put cabbage, carrots, and potatoes in it.
Mm-hmm.
Boiled pig.
So when you kill a 400-pound pig, you've got a lot of meat. Now
Yes, but we go around to the neighbors in sections
Yeah.
and find out what they can give us in place of this.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to say you didn't have refrigeration back then. So.
Oh, no. Some big pigs, sometimes they went 400, 500 pounds, big.
Wow.
They get out of the pig pen. Now, my father and mother wasn't home at the time.
Yeah.
I was babysitting the family.
And you were still a little girl.
Huh?
You were still a little girl, especially compared to this 400-pound pig.
Right. So, what the heck am I going to do with a big pig? Well, I went out and I cut the clothesline down.
Mm-hmm.
And in the back of our house was a meadow. So, we used to try and take a burlap bag, and that would give us, not slippery, would try and grab the pig with the burlap bag.
Yeah.
And once you get the pig, sit on him, and then Milton would tie the clothesline around his leg. Then we drag him home, all the way going home. You could hear the pig squealing and all.
Yeah.
And the neighbors knew what was going on because
Yeah.
it happened quite a few times.
But if you were to lose a 400-pound pig, you'd probably get hell for it.
Oh, so after we pull it up to the house, we used to tie the rope around the apple tree 2 or 3 times and tie a knot the best we could. Then when my father come home, he'd have to take the shovel, go out and fix the hole that the pig got out
Yeah.
of. But that happened quite a few times. But we wasn't scared of the pig or anything.
Did you do that yourself? You would kill and clean and pluck the chickens and
I'd kill chickens by myself,
Mm-hmm.
pluck them, and while I was doing that, my mother would get the water at a certain temperature, not too hot because you'd cook the chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd go in and pour the hot water over the chicken and pluck them.
Mm-hmm.
And after they got all plucked and the pin feathers and everything else was taken off, then I would cut them in the bottom part of their stomach and their neck and draw all that their stomach and guts out.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be careful. If you kill a chicken, you don't just take the chicken and kill it. You have to knock it out first. We found out by knocking them out first, we have more inches of fat and neck because it would hang. If we killed it without killing them first, it would be all in one piece like. It wouldn't be as much. During the Depression, they used to have ERA project or WPA project. Those were jobs that people couldn't find work, sometimes could get onto it.
Mm-hmm.
They'd get a little check twice a month.
Mm-hmm.
But the WPA ERA had so many, it was hard to get a job on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we made the best of everything. A chicken, my mother would take like the neck and the two wings, and she'd make a big pot of soup. It didn't taste soup maybe, but that's the way we had to do it, make it stretch, you know? And like, if we got a half a pound of Hamburg, now there was seven of us, we get a pound of Hamburg, my mother would put so much bread with it to stretch it.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't say you want two hamburgers. You put what Mama puts on your plate.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want more, if there's extra bread, you can eat it. But if there's no extra bread, your belly's full.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Sometime we had a tramp come to the door to ask for food. But we tell them, stay right there, and whatever my mother could scrape up, she'd give them a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But when the tramp left, they left a mark on the post, a light post.
Mm-hmm.
So if another tramp comes along, that mark means go to that house. They'll give you a handout. We didn't realize that at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But one tramp, my father got very close, and he was telling my father,
Yeah.
that's how come we got some. We used to braid rugs in the summertime with rags. We'd go around to see if any neighbors had any extra rags or anything. And in the wintertime, my mother would use them on the floor in the daytime. But when night was coming on, my mother would take the rugs and shake them outside with a broom. Mm-hmm. And then she'd lay them on top of our back and all to keep us warm during the night.
Like an extra blanket?
Because there was no such thing as, we couldn't even afford the coal. We had to go out in the woods and chop the wood as we went along. But if we could get ahead of time, we'd chop up more wood and then pile it in the cellar, you know? In the olden days, they didn't have plows. The neighbors would, big storm. Well, my father and the neighbors would all get together and specify a certain time in the morning, after you feed the pigs and the chickens and all, they'd meet up on the hill and each have a shovel, and they'd shovel all the way down the street so anybody could come by, like your milkman would come by, or your vegetable guy come by or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would clean it good. We didn't have time to go next door and play.
You had too much going on at home.
You had too much. And if you didn't do your chores, we don't get just a spelling. There's a strap behind the stove for us. We didn't get beaten, but you're going to remember the next time to remember your chores.
Yeah.
You know? As I said, we never got beaten, but we had strict orders what to do and what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't our fault if we didn't have money. My father tried to buy a job even, work so many weeks just to get in.
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't even hire him because he had no experience in that. He was a shoe shop worker, you know.
Like a cobbler?
No, he was edge setter in the shoe shop. He put the this thing around here, all black.
The seal? The sole?
Just on the just this side.
On the okay.
Yeah. I will not waste any food.
No. I've never seen you.
But I'll put it this way. People laugh because I try and hoard food. I don't hoard food, but I will not waste it.
No.
But I will never go hungry. What a good life, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
You wouldn't think people could live through it. Boy, I'll tell you, I wouldn't trade that back because I appreciate the things today.
Yeah.